The year was 2347, and humanity had finally earned a seat at the galactic table. The Galactic Confederacy had accepted Earth into its ranks 3 decades ago, but humans remained the youngest species in the alliance. Other races looked at them with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Humans came from a world that most species considered a death trap. Earth had earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, and predators that could tear flesh from bone. Yet humans had not only survived there but thrived. This made the older species nervous. Captain stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Endurance and studied the planet rotating slowly on the main display screen. 7 looked beautiful from orbit. Swirling clouds of purple and silver covered most of its surface. Occasional breaks in the cloud cover revealed landscapes of shimmering crystal forests and rivers that glowed with an inner light. It looked like paradise, but knew better. Every captain in the Confederacy knew the truth about 7. The planet carried a Class 15 danger rating. This was the highest classification possible. In the entire history of the Confederacy spanning over 50,000 years, only 3 worlds had ever earned this rating. The other 2 had been destroyed by orbital bombardment centuries ago. 7 remained because destroying it would mean losing the greatest treasure in the known galaxy. Helix crystals existed only on this world, and they could revolutionize faster-than-light travel. The Confederacy needed those crystals desperately. Lieutenant Shaw walked up beside and handed her a data tablet. He was her chief science officer, a man in his early 30s with a sharp mind and an endless appetite for discovery. His eyes held the same wonder that felt when she looked at the planet below. 17 attempts, said quietly. 17 different species have tried to land on 7 over the past 10,000 years. Not a single individual has ever survived longer than 6 hours on the surface. Nodded, she had read the reports. They had sent an army of 10,000 soldiers, all dead within 4 hours. They had used advanced shielding technology that could withstand a supernova. Their entire expedition vanished in 3 hours. They had tried diplomacy, landing with gifts and peaceful intentions. They lasted the longest at 6 hours before the planet consumed them. And now humanity wants to try, said. The Confederacy thinks we are committing suicide, replied. Ambassador told me this morning that they have already prepared memorial statements for our crew. Smiled at this. The alien ambassador had been assigned to observe their mission. He belonged to a species called the beings of pure energy who considered themselves the most evolved race in the galaxy. Had made it clear from the moment he came aboard that he expected the humans to die screaming on the planet below. He seemed almost disappointed that he had to wait. Sergeant Maria Vance entered the bridge with her security team behind her. Maria was a woman in her late 30s with short dark hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. She had served in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years before joining the Exploration Corps. Her team consisted of 12 soldiers, each one a volunteer who knew the risks. Ground team is ready, Captain, Maria reported. Environmental suits are fully charged, weapons are loaded, medical kits are stocked. Good, said, but remember our rules of engagement. We are not here to fight the planet, we are here to understand it. Maria raised an eyebrow at this. With respect, Captain, the planet has killed over 200,000 sentient beings across 17 expeditions. I think it has made its feelings about visitors very clear. Perhaps, agreed. But every one of those expeditions came here to take something. They came to harvest crystals or claim territory or prove their superiority. We are not here for any of those reasons. Dr. Philip Grant joined them on the bridge. He was the oldest member of the ground team, a man in his 50s with gray hair and a gentle manner that hid a brilliant mind. Philip had spent his career studying planetary ecosystems, and 7 represented the greatest mystery he had ever encountered. The electromagnetic readings are extraordinary, Philip said. The entire planet is generating patterns that look almost like neural activity. It is as if the whole world is one massive brain thinking thoughts we cannot comprehend. Ambassador materialized on the bridge in a flash of golden light. His energy form flickered with what had learned to recognize as contempt. He had no face, but somehow he still managed to look down on everyone around him. "You should turn back now," said. "The Confederacy sent me to witness human courage, not human foolishness. There is no shame in admitting that some challenges are beyond your primitive species." Turn to face the ambassador directly. "They attempted to colonize 7,000–8,000 years ago. Your people lost 3 million energy beings in a single day. The planet found a way to kill creatures made of pure light, yet you call us primitive for trying what your own ancestors attempted." Flickered with anger but said nothing. Had learned that the best way to handle arrogance was to remind them of their own failures. The shuttle bay doors opened 20 minutes later. Led her ground team into the landing craft while the rest of the crew watched from observation windows. She could see fear in their eyes, but also pride. Humanity had spent 3 decades being treated as children by the older races. Today they would show the galaxy what humans were truly made of. The shuttle dropped through the atmosphere of 7. Turbulence shook the craft as they passed through the cloud layer. Warning lights flashed on every console. The temperature outside fluctuated wildly between extreme heat and bitter cold. Radiation levels spiked and dropped without pattern. Then something strange happened. The turbulence stopped. The warnings faded to silence. The shuttle glided through air as calm as a summer morning on Earth. Checked his instruments 3 times before speaking. "Captain, the atmospheric disturbances have completely ceased. Every storm system within 1,000 kilometers has simply stopped." Maria gripped her weapon. "The planet knows we are coming." Looked out the viewport at the crystal forest rising to meet them. The formations seemed to shift and move, turning toward the descending shuttle like flowers following the sun. She felt something she could not explain, a presence watching them with ancient and terrible awareness. "Yes," said softly, "it knows, and it is waiting to see what kind of creatures we are." The shuttle touched down on soil that sparkled like diamonds under an alien sky. The ramp lowered slowly, took a deep breath and stepped forward to become the first human to walk on a Class-15 world. The ground beneath her feet trembled once, then fell still. The crystals around the landing site began to glow with soft blue light. The planet was watching. The planet was waiting. And somewhere in the depths of its ancient consciousness, it was already asking questions about these strange new visitors who came without weapons raised or demands on their lips. The greatest test in human history had begun. Stood on the surface of 7 and felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. The crystal forest stretched in every direction, towers of glowing material that reached toward a sky painted in shades of violet and gold. Rivers of liquid metal flowed between the formations, moving without sound. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks hidden by clouds that seemed to watch the humans with silent interest. The environmental readings made no sense. Walked beside with his scanner held before him like a shield. His face showed confusion that bordered on disbelief. "The atmosphere is toxic," reported. "Pressure is 3 times Earth normal. Temperature is shifting between 40 degrees and -20 without any apparent cause. By every measurement I can take, we should already be dead." "Yet here we stand," Philip said. He knelt beside one of the crystal formations and studied it closely. His old eyes held wonder rather than fear. "These structures are not minerals. The molecular composition is closer to living tissue than stone. Captain, I believe these crystals are organs. The entire forest is part of a single organism." Maria kept her team in a defensive circle around the scientists. Her soldiers held their weapons ready but pointed at the ground, had given clear orders about this. They would not raise arms unless absolutely necessary. The planet had seen enough visitors come with violence in their hearts. The first attack came without warning. The ground beneath Private Danny Cole opened like a mouth, and he dropped into darkness. Maria lunged forward and caught his arm before he fell completely. Two other soldiers grabbed her legs and pulled. For a moment the ground seemed to fight them, pulling Danny deeper into the hole. Then suddenly it released him, and the hole closed as if it had never existed. Danny lay on the surface gasping for breath. His suit showed no damage. Maria helped him to his feet and checked him carefully. "I felt something," Danny whispered. "When I was down there, something was looking at me, not with eyes but looking, like it was trying to understand what I was." More attacks followed. Creatures emerged from the crystal forest, beings of sharp angles and flowing light that moved faster than human eyes could track. They circled the team like predators testing prey. Maria raised her hand and her soldiers formed a circle. No one fired. "Hold your positions," Maria commanded. "They are testing us. Every species before us responded to these attacks with weapons. We will not." One of the creatures lunged at Private. She raised her arm to block the strike rather than shoot. The creature stopped inches from her face. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then the creature made a sound that might have been confusion and retreated into the forest. The other creatures followed. Watched this exchange with growing understanding. The planet was not simply attacking them. It was communicating in the only way it knew. Every visitor for 10,000 years had come with weapons and taken without asking. Violence was the only language the planet had ever learned from outsiders. Studied his readings with fresh eyes. The attacks are not random, they follow a pattern. First physical tests, then creature encounters, then environmental shifts. It is a sequence, a conversation. The planet is asking us questions and waiting for our answers. "What kind of questions?" Philip asked. "Simple ones," replied. "Are you a threat? Will you fight? Will you take?" Every previous expedition answered yes to all three. Their responses were consistent with hostile intent, so the planet responded with hostile action. Made a decision that would either save them all or kill them. She walked away from the group toward a small clearing where the crystal formations parted to reveal bare soil. The planet had created this space. It wanted something from her. "Captain," Maria called out in warning. "Stay there," ordered. "All of you, I need to do this alone." She reached the center of the clearing and stood still. The crystals around her pulsed with light that shifted through colors humans had no names for. The air grew thick with electricity. Felt pressure building in her skull as something vast and ancient turned its attention fully upon her. Reached up and unsealed her helmet. The environmental suit screamed warnings. Maria shouted in protest, and Philip watched in horror as their captain exposed herself to an atmosphere that should kill her in seconds. But did not die. The air around her head shimmered and changed. A bubble of breathable atmosphere formed, a gift from the planet itself. Took a breath of alien air that tasted like flowers and lightning. "I trust you," said aloud. "We did not come here to take, we did not come here to harm. We came because we wanted to understand." The ground trembled. The crystal forest swayed without wind. The liquid metal rivers began to flow in new directions, forming patterns that looked almost like words in a language written for giants. Every member of the ground team felt something impossible happening. A voice that was not a voice entered their minds. It did not speak in words but in feelings and images that translated themselves into meaning. The planet was speaking to them. For the first time in 10,000 years, it had found beings worth speaking to. And its first question was not a threat or a demand. It was simple curiosity wrapped in ancient loneliness. "Why do you not fear?" Felt tears forming in her eyes. She understood now. The planet was not evil. It was not a monster. It was a being that had known only pain and violence from every visitor it had ever received. Its hostility was not cruelty. It was defense born from thousands of years of trauma. "We come from a dangerous world," answered. "Earth tried to kill us too. Earthquakes and storms and predators and disease. Our world was hostile from the day we first walked upon it, but we learned to love it anyway. We learned that something can hurt you and still be worthy of respect. The planet considered this. Images flashed through the minds of every human present. They saw Earth through alien perception. They saw hurricanes and volcanoes and sharks and viruses. They saw humanity struggling and suffering and dying. And they saw something that made the planet pause in wonder. They saw humans choosing to protect their world even after everything it had done to them. They saw forests being replanted, and oceans being cleaned, and species being saved from extinction. They saw a species that had every reason to hate its choosing instead to heal it. "You are different," the planet said. "Yes," replied, "we are human, and we would very much like to know who you are." The crystal forest blazed with light. The ground stopped trembling. For the first time in 10,000 years, the world called Seven had found visitors it did not need to destroy. It had found something it had long ago stopped hopping for. It had found friends. The path into the depths opened before them. The planet wanted to share its story with the first beings who had ever bothered to listen, and led her team forward into the heart of a world that had just learned the meaning of trust. The cavern opened before the team like a cathedral carved by time itself. Walls of crystal rose hundreds of meters high, their surfaces covered in patterns that shifted and changed as the humans watched. Light came from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows. The air was warm and still, like the breath of something alive and waiting. Led her team deeper into the heart of Seven. The planet had created this path for them, opening tunnels through solid rock and crystal with the ease of a person parting curtains. Every step took them further from the surface and closer to something ancient beyond measure. Philip ran his hand along the crystal wall and gasped. "These patterns are not random. They are records. The planet has been recording its history in crystalline form for millions of years. Every surface we see is a page in a book written by a living world." The voice entered their minds again, gentler now, almost hesitant. The planet was not accustomed to sharing its memories. It had kept them locked away for so long, protected from visitors who only ever wanted to take. "I will show you," the planet said. "I will show you what I was and what was done to me." The walls blazed with light. Visions flooded the minds of every human present. They saw the planet as it had been long ago, a world of endless beauty where mountains sang and oceans dreamed. They saw the civilization that had lived here, beings of grace and kindness who had learned to merge their consciousness with the world itself. They had been a peaceful species. They had no weapons because they had no enemies. They lived in harmony with their planet for 100,000 years, learning its secrets and sharing their own. When their physical forms began to fail, they made a choice that had never been made before. They gave themselves to their world. Their minds joined with the consciousness of the planet itself. They became one with the soil and the stone and the crystal forests. Seven was not just a living world. It was a memorial, a monument to an entire civilization that had chosen transformation over extinction. Then the first visitors came. The visions shifted to show ships descending from the sky. They were an ancient species, explorers who had mapped half the galaxy. They found Seven and marveled at its beauty. Then they discovered the helix crystals buried deep beneath the surface. These crystals could bend space itself, making travel between stars as easy as walking across a room. They did not ask permission. They did not even consider that the planet might be alive. They brought machines and began to dig. They cut into the crystal forests and drilled into the mountains. They harvested the helix crystals without knowing what they truly were. Philip watched this vision with growing horror. "The crystals," he whispered, "they are not just organs of the planet, they are themselves. Each crystal contains the consciousness of someone who lived here. Harvesting them is not mining, it is murder." The planet showed them its first act of defense. The machines stopped working. The tunnels collapsed. The crystal forests released toxins that their suits could not filter. Within hours, the entire expedition was dead. The planet had no choice. It was protecting not just itself but the billions of souls contained within its crystalline heart. But they were not the last. Word of the Helix crystals spread across the galaxy. Species after species came to claim them. Each one brought more advanced technology. Each one refused to believe that a planet could be alive and aware. Each one died beneath the surface of a world that only wanted to be left alone. Maria felt tears running down her face. She had been a soldier all her adult life. She had killed enemies and lost friends and made peace with the violence that lived inside her. But this was different. This was not war. This was tragedy on a scale she could barely comprehend. "You were alone," Maria said, "for 10,000 years, defending yourself against everyone who came to your shores, never knowing if anyone would ever understand." "I screamed," the planet replied, "across every frequency. In every way I could imagine, I told them what I was. I begged them to leave, but no one listened. They only heard silence and saw resources to be taken. I became what they expected me to be, a monster, a Class-15 world, a place where nothing survived." Understood now why the human expedition had succeeded where so many others had failed. The planet had scanned their minds from the moment they entered orbit. It had seen their memories of Earth, their history of struggling against their own world and choosing to love it anyway. It had recognized something familiar in these strange creatures from a distant star. "You are like me," the planet said too. "Your world hurt you, poisoned you, tried to shake you off like insects, but you did not hate it. You learned to live with it. You learned to heal what was broken." "It took us a long time," admitted. "We made terrible mistakes. We nearly destroyed our own world before we learned to be better. But we did learn. We can change. That is what makes us human." The planet was silent for a long moment. The crystals around them dimmed as it considered what it had heard. Then the visions returned, showing not the past but the present. The Galactic Confederacy had been watching Seven for centuries. Their records showed that they knew the planet was sentient. They knew the Helix crystals contained the consciousness of an ancient civilization. They had classified the planet as Class-15 not because they feared it, but because they wanted to control access to it. "They are waiting," the planet revealed. "Waiting for technology that can suppress my defenses. Waiting for a weapon that can silence me forever. When they have it, they will come and harvest my children while I watch helplessly." Felt cold horror settle in her stomach. The Confederacy she had trusted, the alliance she had joined, was planning genocide. They wanted to kill a living world and steal the souls of billions of beings. "Why are you telling us this?" asked. "Because you are the first visitors in 10,000 years who asked who I was instead of what I had. Because you showed me trust by removing your helmet in my presence. Because I believe you might be the species that finally helps me." The planet offered them a choice. They could leave now and tell the galaxy what they had learned. They could expose the Confederacy's plans and fight for the rights of a world that had never known friendship. "We will help you," said without hesitation. "I do not know how yet, but I promise you on everything I am, we will not let them destroy you." The crystals blazed with light so bright that the humans had to shield their eyes. When they could see again, they found something waiting for them in the center of the cavern. A single helix crystal, glowing with inner light, offered freely as a gift between friends. "Take this," the planet said. "Show them what you have learned. Show them what I truly am. And when the darkness comes, know that you have given me something I had forgotten was possible." "What is that?" asked. "Hope," the planet replied. "You have given me hope." The ground shook with distant thunder. Somewhere above them, in the cold darkness of space, ships were approaching. The Confederacy had been watching their mission more closely than anyone realized, and they did not like what they were seeing. The time for quiet discovery was ending. The time for battle was about to begin. The shuttle carried her team back to the Endurance through skies that had grown dark with more than clouds. Her mind raced with everything they had learned in the caverns below. The Confederacy was not what humanity had believed. The alliance they had trusted was built on lies and planned atrocities. Commander Price met them in the shuttle bay. He was second in command, a steady man who kept the ship running when she was away. His face showed worry that went beyond normal concern. "Captain, we have a problem," said. "Ambassador has been transmitting to Confederacy Command since you landed. Encrypted signals on frequencies we could not detect until an hour ago. And Captain, there are ships coming. 12 of them. They will be here in 6 hours." Felt the weight of betrayal settle on her shoulders. Had been sent not to observe but to spy. The Confederacy had never expected humans to survive 7. But they had planned for the possibility. If humanity succeeded where others failed, the Confederacy wanted to know how. She found in the observation lounge, his energy form flickering with colors that might have been satisfaction. He did not turn when entered. He simply continued watching the planet below with ancient eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. "You knew," said. "The Confederacy has always known that the planet is alive." Was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice held none of the contempt she had grown accustomed to hearing. "Of course we knew," admitted. "We have known for 8,000 years, since my own ancestors died on that surface and we analyzed what killed them. The planet is sentient. The crystals contain the consciousness of billions of beings. We have always known." "Then why classify it as hostile?" demanded. "Why send expedition after expedition to their deaths?" Turned to face them. His energy form pulsed with something that might have been regret. "Because the helix crystals are too valuable to leave alone. Faster than light travel, as we know, it depends on technology derived from samples obtained in early expeditions. Every species in the Confederacy benefits from those crystals. Do you think they would give that up simply because obtaining more requires silencing a world that screams in protest?" Philip stepped forward with anger in his old eyes. "You are planning genocide. You want to harvest the souls of an entire civilization." "Not me personally," replied. "I am simply an observer, but yes. The Confederacy has been developing technology for centuries that can suppress the planet's defenses. When it is ready, they will come and take what they need. The consciousness within the crystals will be destroyed. The planet will die, and the galaxy will have resources for another 10,000 years of expansion." Maria moved toward the ambassador with violence in her stride. 2 of her soldiers grabbed her arms and held her back. Watched this with interest but no fear. "Your species is fascinating," said 2. "You are the first beings to successfully communicate with the planet. You are the first to learn its secrets through conversation rather than combat. The Confederacy finds this very interesting. Your methods could be adapted. Your approach could be modified into a weapon." Understood with sickening clarity. The fleet coming toward them was not here to rescue or support. It was here to steal everything humanity had learned and use it to destroy the planet more efficiently. "We will not help you," declared. "We will not give you our research or our methods, and we will not stand aside while you commit murder on a planetary scale." Flickered with what might have been amusement. "You are 1 ship against 12. Your weapons are primitive. Your shields are barely functional by Confederacy standards. What exactly do you think you can do?" "We can tell the truth," answered. "We can broadcast everything we have learned to every corner of the galaxy. We can show every species what the Confederacy really is and what they plan to do." The ambassador's energy form went still. For the first time since he had come aboard, saw something like uncertainty in his ancient eyes. "That would be unwise," warned. "The Confederacy does not tolerate dissent. If you expose this secret, humanity will be expelled from the Alliance at best. At worst, your entire species will be classified as hostile and dealt with accordingly." "Some things matter more than politics," replied. She turned and walked off the bridge with her team behind her. There was work to do and very little time to do it. The fleet would arrive in 6 hours. They needed to be ready. Had already begun preparing when reached the command center. The crew of the Endurance understood what was happening without being told. They had signed up for exploration and discovery. Instead, they had found something worth fighting for. "Communications are ready," reported. "We can broadcast on all frequencies the moment you give the order. But, Captain, the moment we do, the Confederacy will know we have turned against them. There will be no going back." Looked at the faces of her crew. These were men and women who had families back on Earth. They had careers and dreams and futures that would all be destroyed by what she was about to ask them to do. "I will not order anyone to do this," said. "What we are about to attempt will make us enemies of the most powerful organization in the galaxy. If anyone wants to leave, I will not think less of them." No one moved. No one spoke. Then Maria stepped forward and stood at attention. "Orders, Captain." Felt pride swell in her chest. This was what humanity was at its best. Ordinary people choosing to do extraordinary things because it was right. "Prepare all weapons," commanded. "Raise shields to maximum, and start recording everything we learned on the planet. The galaxy needs to hear this story." Deep below, Seven felt the change happening above. It sensed the ships approaching with hostile intent. The ancient defenses that had killed so many began to stir, preparing for another battle against beings who only wanted to take. But then it felt something else. A small ship orbiting its surface, crewed by strange beings from a dangerous world, preparing to fight not against the planet but for it. For the first time in 10,000 years, Seven was not alone. The planet reached out with its vast consciousness and touched the minds of the humans aboard the Endurance. It could not speak words they would understand, but it could share feelings, gratitude, hope, and something that might have been the beginning of love. "We are with you," whispered as she felt the planet's presence in her mind. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." The first Confederacy ships appeared on long-range sensors. The final battle for the soul of a living world was about to begin, and humanity, the youngest species in the galaxy, would stand at its heart. The Confederacy fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 12 warships from 6 different species arranged themselves in a crescent around Seven. Each vessel was larger than the Endurance. Each carried weapons that could crack continents and shields that could withstand direct hits from orbital defense platforms. Admiral commanded the fleet from the bridge of her flagship. She was a species of tall beings with silver skin and 4 arms that moved with unsettling grace. Her kind had lost 40,000 soldiers on Seven during an expedition 3 centuries ago. She had been raised on stories of that disaster. She had spent her entire career preparing for revenge. "Human vessel Endurance," broadcast on open frequencies. "You will surrender immediately. You will hand over all data regarding your communication with the planet. You will submit your crew for interrogation. Resistance will result in destruction." Stood on her bridge and looked at the fleet arrayed against her. 1 ship against 12. Her crew had chosen to stand with her despite knowing the odds. Now she had to give them something worth standing for. "Admiral," replied calmly, "this is captain of the exploration vessel Endurance. I must respectfully decline your demands. The information we have gathered belongs to no one but ourselves, and we will not help you commit genocide." The Admiral's face showed cold fury. "You understand nothing, human. That planet has killed millions of sentient beings. It is a threat to the entire galaxy. We are not committing genocide. We are eliminating a danger." "The planet is not a danger," said. "It is a refugee. An entire civilization merged with their world to escape extinction. The helix crystals you want to harvest contain the consciousness of billions of beings. You are not eliminating a threat. You are planning to murder a people who only ever wanted to be left alone." Nodded too. He pressed a control on his console. The recording they had prepared began broadcasting on every frequency their ship could reach. Images of the crystal caverns, memories shared by the planet itself, evidence of Confederacy knowledge going back 8,000 years. The truth poured out across the stars for anyone willing to listen. Admiral watched the broadcast with growing horror. This was not supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to die on the planet or surrender without incident. They were not supposed to expose secrets that had been kept hidden for. "Destroy them," commanded. "Destroy them now." The fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Endurance from every direction, gripped the arms of her chair as the ship shook under the first impacts. Shields flickered and strained. Alarms screamed warnings from every system. Then something unexpected happened. The planet below blazed with light so bright that sensors across the fleet were temporarily blinded. A wave of energy rose from the surface and spread outward like ripples in a pond. When it reached the Endurance, it did not destroy. It protected. A shield of crystal light surrounded the human ship. Weapons fire from the Confederacy fleet splashed against it harmlessly. The planet was defending the humans who had defended it. But Seven did not stop there. The wave of energy continued outward, washing over every ship in the fleet. And as it passed, it carried the planet's voice into the minds of every living being present. "I am," the planet declared. "I am home to 10 billion souls who chose to become one with their world rather than face extinction. For 10,000 years I have been alone. For 10,000 years I have defended myself against those who came only to take. I am not a monster. I am a survivor. And these humans are the first beings in all that time who bothered to ask who I was." Aboard the Confederacy ships, crews paused at their stations. Soldiers lowered weapons they had been ready to fire. Captains and commanders heard the voice of a living world and felt the weight of its loneliness pressing against their hearts. One ship broke formation. The cruiser Wandering Star powered down its weapons and from the attack pattern. Its captain was a young female named who had joined the fleet believing she was protecting the galaxy from a threat. Now she understood that she had been lied to. "I will not fire on survivors," broadcast. "I will not participate in genocide regardless of what shape the victims take." Another ship followed, then a third. Within minutes, 5 vessels had withdrawn from the fleet. Their crews had heard the truth and refused to be part of the lie any longer. Admiral screamed orders at the remaining ships. Her face contorted with fury that went beyond mere anger into something ancient and personal. Her ancestors had died on this world. She had been raised to hate it without ever understanding why it fought back. "Continue the attack," commanded. "Ignore the shield. Concentrate fire until it breaks." The 7 remaining ships opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams carved through space toward the crystalline shield protecting the Endurance. Missiles detonated against its surface in blossoms of nuclear fire. The shield flickered and wavered under the assault. Watched the shield weakening and made a decision. "Drop the shield," she ordered. "The planet is exhausting itself protecting us. We need to protect it." The crystal light faded as 7 released its hold on the Endurance. The human ship stood alone against 7 warships with nothing but its own fragile shields between the crew and destruction. Maria activated the ship's communication array. "Attention all vessels. We are one ship. We cannot defeat you. We do not intend to try, but we will not fire on you and we will not surrender. If you want to destroy us, you will have to kill beings who refuse to fight back. That is what the Confederacy has become. That is who you are now." Silence fell across the fleet. The 7 remaining ships held their fire. On their bridges, commanders looked at tactical displays showing a single vessel making no aggressive moves. They looked at their crews, at the faces of people who had signed up to protect the galaxy, not murdered defenseless explorers. Another ship, then 2 more. Admiral found herself commanding only 4 vessels as her fleet dissolved around her. Cowards hissed, all of you, traitors to everything the Confederacy stands for. No, said a voice from her own bridge. Her first officer, a young named, stepped forward with his 4 hands clasped in the gesture of formal disagreement. We are not traitors. We are the Confederacy as it was meant to be, an alliance built on cooperation and mutual respect. What you are ordering is not defense. It is murder, and I will not follow you into that darkness. Pressed controls on his console. The flagship's weapons went offline. Security teams loyal to the Admiral found themselves locked out of critical systems. The mutiny spread through the ship in seconds as crew members chose their conscience over their commander. Admiral stood alone on a bridge that no longer obeyed her. Around her, the remnants of her fleet scattered as captains fled a battle that had become something they never expected. Below her, a living world sang with joy for the first time in 10,000 years. She had lost, not to weapons or tactics or superior force. She had lost to truth. The broadcast from the Endurance was reaching every corner of the galaxy now. Species who had never heard of Seven were learning its story. Governments were demanding explanations from Confederacy leadership. The secret that had been kept for 8,000 years was secret no longer. Watched the fleet disperse and felt tears of relief streaming down her face. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. Captain said softly, the planet wants to speak with you. Closed her eyes and opened her mind. The presence of Seven filled her consciousness with warmth and gratitude beyond words. Thank you, the planet said. You have given me back my voice. You have shown the galaxy that I am not a monster but a survivor. For this gift, I offer you something in return. In the cargo bay of the Endurance, light began to gather. Crystals formed from nothing, growing from small seeds into structures of breathtaking beauty. Not harvested, not taken, given freely as a gift between friends. These are my children, the planet explained. Seeds that can grow into new living worlds if planted in the right soil. I give them to humanity because you are the first species to prove that kindness is possible. Use them well, and remember what you learned here. Opened her eyes and looked at her crew. They had come to explore a dangerous world. They had found something far more valuable than resources or territory. They had found proof that even in a galaxy full of fear and suspicion, compassion could still change everything. Take us home, ordered. The Endurance turned away from Seven and began the long journey back to Earth. Behind them, a living world sang songs of hope for the first time in 10,000 years. Before them, a galaxy waited to hear the story of the humans who had befriended a planet. And in the hearts of every crew member aboard that small ship, a simple truth burned brighter than any star. This was what it meant to be human, not the ability to destroy, not the will to conquer, but the courage to listen, the wisdom to understand, and the strength to protect those who could not protect themselves. The universe was vast and often cruel, but sometimes all it took was one species willing to reach out a hand instead of a weapon, and even a world that had known only pain could learn to hope again.